Joining us now on the line is Larry Kudlow, the host of the Kudlow Report on CNBC and the Larry Kudlow Show on WMAL, heard Saturdays at 7 p.m. Okay, so, I mean, the world has got the jitters about what's happening in Ukraine. What kind of illumination can you give us on this situation there, Larry?
Well, probably not much right now. I mean, the Russians did not follow through on the so-called ultimatum. So at the moment, Ukraine troops are still in place in the Crimea, and there's been no hostilities so far as I know, no breakout, no nothing. So he sort of dodged a bullet, and that's where it is this morning, or that's where it is whatever time it is over there. I mean, it's a very peculiar – they just stood down. I mean, I don't know what that means. Of course, Russia controls the Crimea. We know that because of their military power. But so far, nothing's happened. So financial markets, which are a pretty good barometer of this, are trading very nicely, even in Russia. Russia got killed yesterday, both its stock market and its currency, and all that stuff is trading up. Gold is trading down, and, we'll see what happens over the course of the day. Putin is trying to make the case, I see in an early morning press conference, that his man in Kiev was thrown out unconstitutionally. That's going to be a tough case for him to make, but it doesn't really matter, does it? He's got the force.
So, Larry Kudlow, can I just switch real fast? Because you wrote a great article this week that actually a lot of people are yelling at you about. The headline is "Bitcoin is not real money," and apparently you're like saying there's no God in the universe by saying this. I got to ask you, explain to us what Bitcoin is.
Yeah.
Can people just get together and decide, hey, let's start our own currency? Can Brian and I say, hey, let's come up with the Mornings on the Mall coin, and we could start our own currency if people want to invest in it?
Well, practically, I mean, this so-called digital currency, it doesn't exist. It's a virtual money of some kind. There's no regulation, there's no clearing, there's no payment process. Look, it doesn't meet the test of money. I've been on this for, I don't know how many, 5, 6, 7 weeks. I've been tweeting about this, and some of these hardcore digital people are screaming at me. Meanwhile, their whole world has collapsed with the bankruptcy in Japan, okay? That was 85% of the so-called clearing. So now it's gone. It's gone. Now, look.
But did it exist?
Well,
I'm so confused as to what it really is.
People were trading something called Bitcoins. And I don't care, you can trade any asset you want. I'm a free market guy, okay? You and I can trade matchsticks for all that matters. But to call it money is quite a different matter. It does not meet the test of a reliable medium of exchange, and it does not meet the test of a reliable store of value. It is not issued by central banks. It has no regulation whatsoever. There are no guarantees of payment. Therefore, I have been arguing it is not money. And until they succumb to some regulation and some central banking interests, as Yellen said, Yellen said the Federal Reserve has nothing to do with Bitcoins. You can't have money that has nothing to do with the government. Money is different. Money is peculiar. As my pal Art Laffer used to say, there has to be the moneyness of money. People have to accept it as money. It has to look like money. It has to be regulated like money. Now, what I suggested to these guys, and by the way, what I would suggest for the U.S., is put some commodity backing behind it. Stabilize its value, have gold or a commodity basket behind Bitcoin, and that would stabilize. Otherwise, look, Brian, if you and I want to make a transaction, I don't know, whatever it is we want to buy, and it costs $500, in 10 minutes, the value of the Bitcoin can change so radically, it might cost $100, $80, or it might cost $2,000. Now, that's not money.
That's not
stable. That's not money. Money has to be reliable, and I know the U.S. dollar has over time depreciated. Okay, I get that, and I don't like that. And I'd like to restore the old commodity value of the dollar or go back to Bretton Woods on gold. But the dollar doesn't change by 80% or 100% in value every 10 minutes, which is what Bitcoins do.
Well, let me ask you this other question. Just breaking in the last hour or two is that Radio Shack is going to close down some 1,100 of its stores. What do you read into that?
Well, I read Radio Shack's got real management and profit problems. That's what I read. I'm not going to take away anything from the economy on that. Radio Shack's been in trouble for quite some time, hasn't it? It's It's been living on the margin.
Yeah.
They've been out-jocked by a lot of these big, giant electronics stores.
Kind of an old business model.
Right.
To coin a phrase the 80s have called, they want their Radio Shack back.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I remember when Radio Shack was hot as a pistol. It's no longer as hot as a pistol. By the way, they're getting killed by, internet. I just bought a beautiful, beautiful new Sony computer. Did the whole thing off Amazon.com. Got to me in 2 days.
Yeah.
So what do I need to go to Radio Shack for?
All right, Larry Kudlow, always good to have you. By the way, all that railing against Bitcoin and saying that you need a government to regulate a currency, there's a whole bunch of people out there with Ayn Rand tattooed on their behind that are very angry at you now.
Nobody, I'm unaware. I just want to pursue this, okay? Neither Ayn Rand
What did you just do?
nor Milton Friedman ever argued that money should have no value and no exchange value and not be affiliated with central banks. You've got to have a central bank issuer and you've got to have a central bank regulator. Otherwise, for God's sakes, it'll be like 100 times worse than the mortgage fiasco.
And if any of you disagree, you can call into the Larry Kudlow Show on WMAL this Saturday at 7 p.m. and have it out with it.
All right,
Larry, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Larry.
Bye.